Okay, well, let's now take on board our very first topic at hand, and that is, as promised, with respect to credit risk funds. To discuss this with me, I have Tarun Bharani, the founder and CEO of TBNG Capital Advisors. Tarun, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us on the show today. You know, credit risk funds have had a tough few years, Tarun. The unit holders have obviously been extremely disappointed, and plus you had the whole Franklin fiasco, which weighed in on the values of a lot of credit risk funds. What do you think were the key reasons why we saw this underperformance in these last few years, Tarun? Let's start off by understanding that.
So, thank you, Mavina. First of all, let's understand a debt fund. How do a debt fund makes money, right? Debt fund makes money either through interest rates or another part is the credit risk part, right? If we look at from a last 3-year to 5-year point of view, we have seen from 2018 to 2021, the interest rates have gone down from we have seen 200 to 300 basis point compression there. And due to that, most of the funds which have riding the interest rate wave, like the corporate bond category, the banking and PSU category, all of these funds have benefited immensely. Another category called credit risk category, that category had lot of accidents we can call. We have seen happening with the likes of IL&FS to start with. Then we had issues with DHFL, and there are a lot of many other papers which has gone bad in this period. Due to that, many credit risk funds had to go for segregation and all those challenges. Due to that, the general mood among the investors and advisors have gone negative for this category. But nonetheless, there are some funds which have, despite being credit risk, have been able to deliver well. So according to me, this has been a very classic period wherein the interest rates have gone down and actual debt investors in the conservative categories have made money, but credit risk category has a tough time in that period.
So do you think, you mentioned unfortunate events, a stroke of hard luck, if you could call it that, that have affected a lot of these credit risk funds. Now, do you think the circumstances surrounding that have largely gone behind us? What do you think is in store for credit risk funds going forward?
If you ask me, frankly, currently the returns, the YTMs, if I look at from the current credit risk funds, they are the YTMs are at all-time low. The spread between a AAA and the AA paper or other category, the spreads are at their lowest right now. So from an attraction point of view, I don't find them any attractive by paying 100 to 150 basis point of expense ratio. I don't think this category is a suitable category right now to look at for investor. Yes, last 1 year, there has been a compression in yields which has happened. Due to that, most of the credit risk funds have delivered great returns. But going forward, I don't think this as a category is looking very attractive to me.
Okay. So now what do you think we've seen in these last couple of months? Tarun, I'm just asking you this question. I understand that it's not looking very attractive in your opinion as a category going forward, but in these last couple of months, have you seen any sort of improvement in outlook? Because, I want to give the existing unit holders in credit risk funds as well an opportunity to understand what they should do with their holdings. So do you think that in the last few months, we've seen a bit of improvement in traction? We've seen credit risk funds get an opportunity to increase in value?
Right. So for existing investors in credit risk funds, they need to look at it from a couple of angles. One, a very important factor one need to look at is a taxation point of view. Any investment is into a debt mutual fund, before it completes 3 years, it attracts a short-term capital gain, which is more or less like your business income rate right now. And more than 3 years, you get the indexation benefit. So for all the existing investors who have not completed 3 years, I don't think it's a great idea to look at exit. For the existing investors, another important point to look at is from an environment point of view. Definitely, there has been a marked improvement in the environment we are in right now. We are seeing a different business cycle emerging. The interest rates are at their all-time low. This is bringing a lot of capital expansion plan for most of the corporates currently. So this is actually a very positive thing. There has been a great amount of deleveraging which is happening in the system, wherein most of the corporates are repaying the loan. Due to that, most of the mutual fund finds competition with the banks and they are not able to lend adequately. So due to that, from an opportunity point of view, the attraction of rates is not that high, but existing investors can continue to remain invested. But nevertheless, you should be aware that we are moving into a different new cycle from a softer regime of interest rates going down 200 to 300 basis point down. We are going into an environment next 3 years, you should see the interest rates inching up because of the general government borrowing and the inflation numbers are heading up in future. So keeping that in mind, one need to be aware of the risk one is getting into these investments.
Exactly, and that's going to be my next question, because literally, Tarun, the name of the fund itself has the word risk in it. So, and you've already, sort of briefly explained the risks that this fund does carry. So, would you then call this fund as being perhaps unsuitable for every category of investors? Who do you think should invest and who should stay away?
Right. So, if you ask me frankly, from a suitability point of view, debt as a category, I always look at it as an investment to safeguard my capital. So capital protection is one of my primary reason to look at debt investments. So whatever risk I have to take, I will take risk into asset classes like equity and commodities and all other asset classes. But debt, I want to safeguard. Again, this is again from my principal point of view. Others can have different principle. So when you are looking at purely from a protection point of view, I would definitely look at categories like laddering up my investment into high quality investment like short-term funds, banking and PSU fund, corporate bond funds. There are gilt fund available with a higher maturity like rundown maturity funds. So that category, it looks more attractive. But this category, credit risk, could be suitable for much more sophisticated investors who understand the risk and who know how to tactically play this. This is very critical to ensure that each security in the portfolio which is lying is of, you don't see the risk of default and all this happening. So this category is little bit more for sophisticated and investor who understand this space.
Okay, so a very valid point. When you invest in debt funds, you are looking at a tad bit more uncertainty, a tad bit less risk. A credit risk fund does fall in the debt fund category, umbrella. So that's one of the reasons why Tarun would prefer avoiding credit risk funds for the average retail investor. And perhaps this is a product that is a bit more sophisticated in nature and hence is suitable to more sophisticated investors as well. Okay. Tarun, I know you briefly spoke about this earlier about, bond yields, etc. But just so that our viewers are aware, right now we've seen a massive spike in bond yields. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, in today's session as well, we've seen a big surge. The benchmark bond yield posted its biggest single session rise all the way since the 15th of April. We are at the highest since the 31st of March. So when we see this kind of spike in bond yields, usually what does it indicate for credit risk funds?
So let's talk about the environment where we are heading in. We are expecting that next 3 years the interest rates are going to firm up, right? And we don't expect the interest rate hike or the interest rate hikes by RBI is going to be very, very fast. These will be environment of lazier rate hikes with government borrowing calendar rising very fast, inflation going up. So we expect the reverse repo can go up in this environment. And again, the most important place one should have their money in the debt category next 6 months to 1 year is the cash category. Almost 25 to 30% of your money should be lying into the cash category. 25 to 30% of your money could be parked into categories like corporate bond or banking PSU with a 2 to 3 year rundown kind of maturity. And the balance money could go into some gilt index kind of category. So in this current environment, we are talking about where the interest rates are expected to inch up. Credit risk fund with a higher duration or maturity will have negative impact. But nonetheless, the spreads currently look at, because most of the credit risk funds are currently, YTMs are in the range of 7%. So from that point of view, it looks fairly priced in currently.
Okay, understood. Well, there you have it. That's quite a lot that you need to know about credit risk funds. Now that you've taken a holistic picture of it, think about all the points that Tarun has flagged off and then decide on whether you want to put your money in credit risk funds. And I hope we've given adequate advice for those who already have credit risk funds as well in their portfolio. Of course, you can always connect with us, write into us on the moneyshwari.tnow.tv, and we'll take up your questions and queries right now with Tarun if you have anything to ask him on credit risk funds. Okay, well, let's take on board some viewer queries then that we've already received. And our first question is from S. Bala. He asks, Tarun, how do you look at the balanced advantage fund for investing right now when there's a lot of market volatility? Well, to be honest, there's always a lot of market volatility. Dalal Street's middle name is volatility. But Tarun, what do you think of balanced advantage funds? When do they work?
So this as a category, if we look at invest into a mix of asset classes. So it has the ability to move into debt to equity from any point of time from 0 to 100%. So that flexibility is definitely a great advantage for anyone who is looking at as a first time investor, because everybody comes with a view that markets are a risky place to invest. So if actually one has to start his investing journey, I feel this is one of the best product in the market where one can experience the volatility of the market. Still, the experience in investing will always be good. At the same time, if we look at the current environment, we had a great run in markets. Last 1 year, Sensex Nifty has grown almost 50 to 60% absolute. In this kind of environment, there are concerns for a lot of investors that where are we heading? Business cycle continues to look attractive. We continue to feel equities should do very well. But at the same time, you want that in case of jerk in the market, you should be safeguarded. So currently, most of the balance advantage funds, since the valuation has gone up considerably, they are sitting with 30 to 40% equity in their portfolio, which gives them the ability, in case of a correction in the market, they will be able to enter into markets they're very nimble in terms of entering into the market. So this, and classic case is a last year when markets fell by almost 30-40%. These balance advantage funds from 20% moved to 80-90% into equity. That again shows the resilience, right? The flexibility these funds have to move the asset allocation, which you and me as an investor will behave. Our behavior bias will be very high. When the markets are rising, we tend to invest more. When markets are falling down, we don't tend to invest. That behavior is actually very well positioned in this category. So that makes this category very attractive. And in the current environment, I feel this category has a lot of merit to invest.
Okay, well, lots of merit to invest in the balance advantage fund category according to Tarun. Many compelling reasons. Okay, we have a question from Mohit Gupta. It's a very interesting one. He says he's invested 25 crore rupees in the UTI Treasury Advantage Fund 4 years ago. It's a big sum of money that he's put in there. And he said, you know, it saw 10% NAV loss due to the DHFL default, because of which the XIRR is only 4%. Now he's asking, when can we expect the markup or increase in the NAV of this fund? Obviously, all fund houses have sold the DHFL paper in the market and given markup to their respective fund NAVs, except UTI, according to him. You know, this is something very closely associated with the credit risk fund, but of course this is the Treasury Advantage Fund, and a lot of these debt funds sometimes do tend to have this big disadvantage that, you know, there's too much of concentration of investments in one particular corporate or paper, and that is something that tends to lead to the downfall of the NAV of the entire fund. Anyway, so what's your view on this, Tarun?
So other fund houses, I have observed, have taken a massive haircut, and balance has been marked up in the NAV. However, in case of UTI, they are holding out for the resolution, which is expected soon for DHFL, with the NCLT process picking up. This will enable more recovery from the DHFL, and thus the markup compared to other fund houses could be better. So, however, a caveat that the NAV loss will continue to remain, but with the strategy which UTI is currently using, they are expecting a better covering of their loss. So again, one can look at it from that point of view.
All right, let's, excuse me, take on board one more question. I think we have time for that. We have Babruvan Joshi saying that, you know, he's got a couple of long and short-term goals and his investment profiles too. So he's aiming to accumulate 8 lakh rupees in an emergency fund. For his retirement, he'll need 80,000 rupees per month. For his daughter's education, he needs 10 lakhs, and then post-graduation 30 lakhs. And for his daughter's marriage, he wants to set aside 25 lakh rupees. So, you know, I'm glad he's put down in pen and paper all the money that he thinks he will need for all of his goals. Some of them are short-term, some of them are long-term. He says he's already put 22 lakh rupees in 36 mutual funds. I don't think he has any other mutual funds with him. So, or any other, in fact, no, actually he does. He has a couple of more. He has 16,000 rupees, which is a monthly contribution in the Provident Fund, and 4,000 in VPF. The total value of that is 18.6 lakhs. He's got 7 lakh 83 in an NPS, 1 lakh 25 in Sukanya Samriddhi, and 4 lakh 81 in PPF. The fact that he's put it in Sukanya Samriddhi means that I assume his daughter is still under 10 years old. So even the daughter's education and marriage goals, you could call them long term. What do you think of the 36 mutual funds? Do you think they're too much? What do you make of his overall portfolio? It's nice to see that he has listed down his goals and everything very well. So what do you think?
So I first like to congratulate Mr. Joshi that he has done good amount of work in bringing some great amount of clarity of where he wants to reach, right? Unless you are not very clear that what you want to do in life, and the goals are not very clearly defined, we end up getting into many accidents in life. So this is the first important part, and I feel he has done a great job there. Second, I can sense that it is a phase wherein first he has started investing, and due to that he has almost 36 plus funds. According to me, it's not a great idea to have so many mutual funds. Mutual fund in itself is a very diversified product. Each mutual fund schemes have almost 50 to 60 securities in average. When you end up buying 36 mutual fund, the benefit of direct diversification goes away. According to me, one should not have more than 6 to 10 schemes for a portfolio like this, what he is talking about. So not more than 6-10 schemes, and this again can be very well diversified across categories. So based on his risk profile, which looks medium, he can build up a large cap category with an indexing focus. He can build up a global category with investing outside India. He can build up a multi-cap strategy. He can build up a mid-cap strategy. So I think this 5-6 categories, if he has taken care of, that diversification in itself is good, and one or two funds in each category is good enough to take care. So maybe his portfolio requires a restructuring, and that restructuring will help him bring in more focus from his investment point of view. Now let's talk about his financial goals. So his age is 39, his daughter age is 11, and he's targeting a retirement age 60. Assuming his current allocation of investment is 35% in debt and 65% in equity, and his overall net worth is biased completely towards debt, I feel, first of all, from an asset allocation point of view, he can move towards at least a 50-50 asset allocation between debt and equity. To receive a 80,000 income in today's term with a 7% inflation, he need to accumulate a retirement corpus of approximately 8 crores in next 21 years. His existing assets, whatever he has, it can get him close to 1.4 crore. So he requires an additional investment of almost 75,000 per month. So which he is currently doing almost 33,000. So maybe he want to increase it and step up his savings and more towards a higher risk equity asset, because that will help him get better growth in the portfolio. And overall, I think he's going in the right direction. For his daughter future also, he need to start saving almost 25 to 30,000 monthly savings. That will help him achieve his daughter's future goal.
Okay, so that's a complete wrap-up of all that, all the few chops and changes that Tarun has recommended. And yeah, I guess it's a good learning lesson for all of our viewers as well on noting down all that you want to achieve in life, putting a monetary value to it, and then, you know, planning your investments, just how Babu Rewan has done. Well, I think with that, we're out of time as well. Tarun, thank you so much for joining us on what I'm sure has been an enlightening session for all of our viewers on credit risk funds, and of course answering our viewer questions and queries as well. Thanks once again.